Now, as day 18 of the Russian invasion of Ukraine and airstrikes across the city continues, back-to-back airstrikes in Lviv has left behind destroyed buildings, loss of human lives extensively. Meanwhile, Ukraine now claims that Russian troops have fired upon civilians along the Green Corridor during that evacuation. Many of them have been declared dead. Let's have a look at this detailed report.
Missile strikes on cities. Charred houses and vehicles. Air bases attacked. Bloodbath on the streets of Ukraine. Putin is unrelenting and unsparing. Air raid alerts in almost every region in Ukraine, including Kharkiv, Kiev, Zhytomyr and Zaporizhia. Ukraine claims Russians shot at civilians who were trying to evacuate along a green corridor in Kiev, killing 7 people. Russia expanding offensive to western city of Lviv, which saw a barrage of multiple missile strikes and several casualties. Buildings and cars in ruins. The streets of Kyiv paint a picture of horror and destruction.
There was an explosion, a loud blast and fire in this building inside Kiev. Now, this is a residential area in Ukraine, in Kiev. This was targeted. Multiple explosions have been reported on the outskirts of Kiev. Officials now say that people are now leaving this area out of fear.
Right now, I'm on my way to Bucha from Kyiv, and here you can see a police car which has been hit by a small rocket and has been damaged. So many such police cars have been hit. There's another one standing on the other side, and this is being hit by a small rocket today morning probably.
Kherson, the first city to fall, still shows resistance in some pockets, leading to fight back. But the city continues to witness massive attacks by the Russian troops. Many houses reduced to rubble. Ukrainian tanks and vehicles damaged. In Kharkiv, heavy shelling has resulted in massive destruction. Houses charred. Vehicles on fire. Commercial buildings and buildings of state administration destroyed in back-to-back attacks.
There are the ruins of Kharkiv Regional State Administration behind me. When it was attacked on the morning by the rockets from the sky, Kharkiv volunteers gathered here to coordinate their work with each other and authorities. The building was destroyed by a second blow on another day. The Kremlin cover says that they are hitting military targets only, but in reality, they are destroying the symbols of our cities and our freedom.
Ruthless Russians moved down a car full of people with their tanks in Zaporizhia, killing 2 adults and a teen. Missiles rocked residential areas of Mykolaiv. In Baishiv, just outside Kyiv, the neighborhood reduced to rubble after relentless attack. But Ukraine is not ready to drop resistance, despite its willingness for fresh talks. Zelenskyy proposed to meet Putin with the condition that Israel mediates.
Російські окупанти не можуть нас підкорити. У них немає такої сили, немає такого духу, вони тримаються тільки на насильстві і тільки на терорі. Всюди, куди прийшла Росія, на чужу землю, мрії неможливі.
With no end to the war in sight, can the next round of negotiations, scheduled after finalization of legal framework, bring any respite? Bureau Report, India Today.
All right, let me quickly cut across to Rajesh Pawar, who's on ground, India Today's correspondent, bringing us the ground reality. Rajesh, we know in a fresh round of attacks, we hear that missile strikes has hit just the border of NATO. Here, a NATO country where it's been strikes, several people have been pronounced dead. If you can give us Russia's stance on this, even as talks happen simultaneously, we're looking at Russia only escalating its offensive in Ukraine.
See, Nabila, as Russia now is consolidating its position in the east and south of Ukraine, where ground offensive was on a massive scale in last 1 week, and they have made tremendous gains in east and south of Ukraine. Now they have turned their focus towards west of Ukraine, to Lviv, to Ivano-Franko, and those regions which are now bordering Poland and Hungary. And mind you, both Poland and Hungary are members of NATO. So any action that side and any miscalculation or any missile going off the target can land into NATO territory, which will then bring Russia and NATO face to face in a military confrontation. So this is what you have to watch, that the Russian airstrikes and missiles there do not go too close to the border of these countries, because that could lead to a major escalation in the conflict in this war between the two countries. Over to you.
Right. Rajesh, we know that Ukraine has been constantly accusing Russia of targeting civilian establishments, residential areas, but you've been through the length and breadth of many of those areas that is currently declared as combat regions. Have you seen this kind of particular target at civilians and civilian establishments by Russian forces?
Look, Russia has been constantly denying that they are targeting the civilian infrastructure or the civilians. But there have been a lot of collateral damage, and there have been some targeting of the civilian buildings, especially in Kharkiv and Sumy. These two cities were badly hit, and a lot of civilian infrastructure, a lot of civilian buildings were also destroyed. And mind you, in war, there are certain legitimate targets which are military targets, but there are certain targets which are of dual use. For example, hydropower plants. They have a military value as well as they are for civilian use. So such dual targets is a matter of it's controversial to say whether they are legitimate military targets or not, but Russia has gone for every value target they perceived can be used by the military and have gone to occupy that, be it in Zaporizhia, be it the hydropower plants, be it Chernobyl, everywhere. Over to you.
Right. Rajesh, we know that you were on your way towards the capital city of Kiev, and that's been the #1 target for Russia all along. They've been constantly upping their forces to try and inch closer to the capital city. We hear that 64 kilometers of tanks of the Russian army have been already aligned and regrouped and redirected so that they encircle Kiev in the days to come. Any attack or imminent threat in the next 24 to 48 hours that you sense?
Look, Nabila, Kyiv is the capital of Ukraine. It is the biggest city, the biggest metropolis in this country. Political now center of Ukraine runs through Kyiv. So this city is of vital importance to both Russia and Ukraine. And Ukraine forces have now concentrated inside the city to defend the city to the last. However, Russian forces have also amassed in big numbers, especially towards the north. As NASA reported, the American government reported a 62-kilometer long convoy to the north of the city. Now, what we are hearing is this convoy broke up into 4 different parts and has moved away, probably to surround the city in all directions. Let me tell you, there are 2 prominent axes which come to Kyiv from northeast and northwest. Northeast, they come through Brovary, a small town which is already under attack by Russian forces, and heavy fighting took place there 2 days ago. And then there is Irpin, Gostomel, and Bucha, this complex of which is towards the northwest. And another axis comes through this. So for Russia, for any kind of ground offensive, a large-scale ground offensive against Kyiv, they need to clear these 2 axes and these areas, which in my sense, in my thinking, probably would take another 48 to 72 hours, maybe longer. Until that time, they do not clear these pockets of resistance there, they will not be able to launch a full-scale invasion of Kyiv. Over to you.
Rajesh, I'd like to ask you here live on television, where's the exact location? And I know that you've told us it's slightly risky and threatening for you to show us what's around you, but is it possible for you to give us an insight as to what the situation is right behind? Are you in Kiev? Have you reached the capital city?
Yeah, I'm in Kyiv right now. Just reached about half an hour back. And this is a place where I'm staying with a lot of other foreign journalists. So here it is pretty safe. The people, the guards around here, the military guards, the police guards, they know that people generally in the square are journalists here. So even if we use our camera or show it around, it's not a problem. I can show you around. If you want, I can turn my camera around
Sure,
and
please,
show it to you.
Rajesh. And I'm really hoping that you are safe. You've been there. You know the lay of the land.
It's totally safe here now. This square is totally safe. This is Independence Square in the center of Kyiv.
And here, there's been no tensions in the last few days, we believe. Kiev largely has been safe, at least from what we hear in your reports, based on what you've told us. So far, no strikes on Kiev, the capital city.
See, last 8 days and 8 nights have been calm here in Kyiv, except for two explosions yesterday. Apart from those 2 explosions last 8 days and 8 nights, there have been no airstrikes, no fires, no missiles landing in Kyiv in last 8 days. Lavina.
Right. Rajesh, a quick word as I send you off. Which is the closest area to the capital region or capital city of Kiev that the Russian forces have already made their way?
Look, Bucha, where I heard the fighting today, and the Ukrainian army firing the rockets against the Russian tanks, that area from the outskirts of the city, from the suburbs and the outskirts, it is just about, I think, 12 to 13 kilometers. They are pretty close. And similarly on Irpin side also, it's just about 12 to 13 kilometers away. They are right on the doorsteps of the city right now from 3 different directions. Over to you, Lavina.
That's not too far at all. Rajesh, thank you very much for joining us with those details. India Today's largest team of reporters on ground, our correspondents there, bringing us a factual reality of what's unfolding in that war-torn country, even as Russian forces now very tactfully inching closer to the capital city of Kiev. Let's take you through some of those ground reports coming in, filed by soldier reporter Rajesh Pawar himself while on his way to Bucha. Take a look.
I'm right now standing in front of Babaniyar Memorial. It is a memorial in the memory of those Jews which were killed by the Nazis in the Second World War. Almost 18% population of Kyiv during the Second World War in the late 1930s was almost 18% of the total population. And these people were massacred by the Nazis, and mass graves existed in this area of Babaniyar. And this memorial was made to commemorate these people who were killed by the Nazis. There was a claim by the Ukraine that recently a missile has destroyed this memorial or has caused some kind of damage. And then they blamed the Russian army of destroying the heritage sites, historical sites of Kyiv city. But here we do not see any kind of damage or any kind of bomb in this area which has landed a missile. Just behind this, a few meters away, about 200 meters away, if you can see, is a TV tower. Maybe it was targeted and maybe something fell between these two things, between the memorial and the TV tower, which we cannot see right now. This is Rajesh Pawar for India Today from Babaniyar in Kyiv city.
If you see behind me, this is a new memorial at Babaniyar, which was made to commemorate the barbaric murdering of Jews during the Second World War by the Nazis. And this is a new memorial which was made by the government after Ukraine became an independent country. Ukrainian government alleged that Russians are destroying historical sites, and they gave an example of Babaniyar, that Russian missile or a bomb fell here. If you see towards little away, just 100 meters from here is this TV tower, a huge TV tower, which is a communication center and becomes a legitimate military target. Probably it was being targeted and something fell near it. But as far as Babaniyar is concerned, I have gone all around and I've shown you on camera. It's totally safe. This is Rajesh Pawar for India Today from Babaniyar, Kyiv city. I'm standing in front of a TV tower inside the Kyiv city, which was targeted by a Russian missile a few days ago. But this missile missed its target just by about 25 to 30 meters. And the result was the TV tower is totally safe and standing. But see what happened to the nearby area. You see this pole is become totally black, it's all gone. and a similar pole was there in the far distance, if you see. And see its portion, other part of the pole went so far and near the car, if you can see, lying on the road. So this is the kind of damage it has done. And if you look around, the buildings have also been damaged. Bring it this end and look at this car, the state of this car. This car has been badly damaged too, totally. So anything in this area was totally blasted, but it missed its main target, which was the TV tower, just by 25 meters. So this is the kind of precision today's military technologies need if they want to hit the target without any collateral damage. This is Rajesh Pawar from Kyiv for India Today.
I am right now crossing the metro station of Brest-Reka, which was hit by a Russian missile a few days ago. The whole area is in shambles, lot of damage, and we are not allowed to film here. So, but I'm trying to do it from a car. I want to show you a lorry, the way it has been hit, that it is burnt. It can be seen now. See the situation. This is how a lot of debris all around, and the whole area is in shambles. And this is metro station Brest-Reka inside the Kyiv city. It is right inside the Kyiv city. And this is a missile, a massive missile, probably a cruise missile, which hit this area a couple of days ago.
Now, as Russia continues its offensive to capture capital city of Kiev, Ukrainians have refused to bow down. My colleague Gaurav Sawant there has had a conversation with Hennady, the mayor of Bela Tserkva. He has in fact said that Russians may be advancing from the north and northeast, but their advance will be stalled at the south side. Here's what he had to say.
Preparations intensifying for the defense of Kiev, and we are in Bela Tserkva. This is about 70 kilometers from Kiev, and with us is the mayor. This is the axis from the south. We've been talking about the north, northwest and west, three approaches to Kiev that the Russians are trying to advance from. In the south, they are being stopped, and with us is the mayor of Bela Tserkva. Sir, what's the current position right now?
Звичайно, наше місто, як і всі великі міста України, були здійснені ракетні удари з сторони електропостачання, водопостачання, газозабезпечення, а також теплопостачання.
Today the situation in Bela Tserkva is stability. All the life support system works stably, but we also was attacked by Russian Federation army. We have some missiles here.
So there was a missile strike. There have been missile strikes here. Now this is quite a militarized zone even as we speak. Everyone's carrying a weapon. The mayor himself is carrying his assault rifle. His team that work with him, they are armed with their weapons walking alongside him. Is a Russian invasion or a Russian attack from this flank also expected, like Brovary or in Irpin and Bucha? The Russians are trying to advance from there. What about this place?
Поки що на нас атаки не було. Було декілька диверсійних груп.
No, the situation in Bela Tserkva is stably. We had some sabotage groups, but now it's liquid.
They've been liquidated.
We'll liquidate.
That's a very important point that you make. The mayor is making a very important point about sabotage. Russian infiltrators, they are coming into the system not with their weapons. Their weapons are already here, and then they attempt to target the Ukrainian security forces from behind. And that is where, if you notice this change in the armband, it used to be yellow earlier, it's blue now. It's to keep an eye on who's on the Ukrainian side and who's on the Russian side. But there were some missile attacks that took place in Bela Tserkva. What was the damage like?
3 людини загинуло, на жаль, і 12 людей поранено. Також, є зруйновані будівлі і, звичайно,
we have 3 deaths and 12 wounded. Some building is destroyed, but
you're fighting on.
Yeah.
Okay. In this locality, there have been some missile strikes. Some military installations have also been targeted by the advancing Russian soldiers. But is Kyiv safer from the south side as the Russians approach from the north and the northwest?
Сьогодні в Україні немає міста, де би було безпечно знаходитись, тому що ми бачимо
There are today no safe cities here in Ukraine because we see that missiles attack is on the west, on the south also.
Well, that's an important point. For speaking to us here on India Today, Mayor, many thanks, sir. Ma'am, many thanks. So, protecting the city, but making a very important point. No city is safe from a Russian missile attack. These attacks continue, but ground forces are being stalled at multiple locations. The pitched battles for the control and defense of Kiev continue. With cameraman Pawan Kumar at Bela Serkov on the southern axis to Kyiv, Ukraine, Gaurav Sawant for India Today.
Now, for the first time, Russian Defense Ministry there has released a video of capturing Hostomel Airfield near Kiev. This footage shows Russian troops landing from a military aircraft while huge black smoke can be seen rising kilometers ahead. This is the same airfield where Russia destroyed the world's largest aircraft, Antonov An-225 Mriya. Here's more.
Landing in a military chopper. Then, quick area domination. Russian troops in action. Reportedly to seize the Hostomel airfield, northwest of the capital Kyiv. Crouching for the ambush with deadly ammunition. These images, released by Russian Defense Ministry from 24th February, ostensibly capture the massive fight between Ukraine and Russian troops. Plumes of huge black smoke can be seen rising kilometers ahead. The Hostomel airfield alongside the Antonov airport close to Kyiv proved a vital staging post for a planned assault on the capital city. During fight for the airport, Russian shelling had destroyed the world's largest aircraft, Antonov An-225 Mriya. This is the first time images of the intense capture was released by Russian Defense Ministry. At least a half dozen Russian helicopters were spotted flying west towards Hostomel. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, Russia continues to up its offensive in a bid to cripple Ukrainian air power. Russia launches third massive strike on Ukraine airbase on the town of Vasilkiv, situated on the outskirts of the capital city of Kiev, leaving it to pieces now. In fact, we're looking at ruins all around there. That was followed by huge explosions. Let's have a look at more of these compelling images.
Huge plumes of smoke, the sky lit up by a massive blaze. These were the scenes in the town of Vasilkiv in the outskirts of capital Kyiv after Russian rockets attacked yet another Ukrainian airbase. Vasilkiv Mayor Natalia Balasinovich claimed that the air attack also hit an ammunition depot, leading to a huge explosion. It's clear Russian forces have a strategy at hand to cripple the fight back of the Ukrainians in the skies by targeting air bases. This is the third such massive strike on an air base in the last 2 weeks in Ukraine. This is how Vinnytsia Havrishovka airport looks like now, in pieces, shattered, completely destroyed. At least one person was reported dead as a result of the non-stop rain of Russian missiles. A warehouse caught fire and an administrative building was also partially destroyed. What followed? A strict demand from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. He urged the West for the second time to impose a no-fly zone over Ukraine.
Ми повторюємо кожного дня: закрити небо над Україною, закрити для всіх російських ракет, для російської бойової авіації, для всіх цих терористів. Зробіть гуманітарну повітряну зону без ракет, без авіабомб. Ми люди, і це ваш гуманітарний обов'язок захищати нас, захищати людей.
NATO has already turned down Zelensky's request for a no-fly zone once. A no-fly zone will bar all unauthorized aircraft from flying over the war-torn country.
We have seen it for the last 11 days, and you have seen it right now, that the destruction is happening now on the east side of Dnipro River and then on the west. However, without the no-fly zone over Ukraine, it seems like the whole Western world is just watching us being destroyed with no additional steps being taken.
Earlier, world's largest aircraft, Antonov AN-225, Maria, was also destroyed in the Russian attack on Hostomel Airport. Maria means dream in Ukrainian. The dream that appears to have been shattered now with the aircraft reduced to wreckage.
Группа сейчас работает на аэродроме Гостомель. Отсюда до Киева чуть больше 20 километров. Сейчас этот аэродром.
Several air bases in Ukraine have been completely destroyed with ballistic missiles since Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, there are 44 million Ukrainians, and there is one Vladimir Putin in Russia who has chosen to decide their fate. One man's call to war has hit the entire world. There are Ukrainians and Russians dying in the snow-covered fields and roads leading to Kiev. But what does Putin really want? Why is this war that's being waged with such flimsy excuses? Is this about legacy here, or is this just all about geopolitics? The answer there lies with Moscow, with a 69-year-old former KGB spy who is today the president of the Russian Federation. Putin really has all the answers.
In Moscow, the hammer and sickle is lowered for the last time, and an era comes to an end.
I am ceasing my activities in the post of President of the USSR.
The year was 1991, and on the day of Christmas, Mikhail Gorbachev, the last leader of the Soviet Union, announced that the USSR had ceased to be. Weeks later, Lieutenant Colonel Vladimir Putin had quit the now defunct and one-time dreaded KGB and was on his way to St. Petersburg. His world lay shattered around him. His future looked bleak.
Клянусь, при осуществлении полномочий президента Российской Федерации.
Decades later, as the president of the Russian Federation, he would call the Soviet collapse the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. Who is Vladimir Putin? This former KGB agent, his aura very carefully crafted, meticulously drafted. Like in 2008, when he was Prime Minister, Putin, along with journalists, was visiting a wildlife reserve in Siberia when a tiger charged towards a TV crew. Before anyone else could react, Putin apparently shot the beast and sedated it with a tranquilizer gun. This was reported as a headline on Russia television, but the action was never captured on camera. Years later, in an interview to a Russian magazine, Putin admitted that the incident was staged. It was done to draw attention to a species under threat, he claimed. And that seems to sum up the driving philosophy of Vladimir Putin. Trained in the elite spy school of Soviet Union, he remains a master of misdirection.
The Russian Federation, there will be no war. We don't want war, but we will not allow violating our interests.
The force driving Vladimir Putin seems to be his desire to make Russia great again. In the process, Putin has gathered powers that has rendered him czar of all he surveys, while undermining the institutions that strengthen democracy.
There was Alexander the Liberator and Yaroslav the Wise. We will have Vladimir, the underwear poisoner. That is how he will go down in history.
His detractors have been jailed, the latest and most formidable being Alexei Navalny, the leader of the Russian opposition. Before he was jailed, he had survived an assassination attempt. Many believe it was Vladimir Putin who had ordered his assassination with a Soviet-era nerve agent called Novichok. "30 years ago, when Ukraine declared its independence, it had the third biggest pile of nuclear weaponry in the world. That was its share of the nuclear arsenal of the Soviet Union. Only USA and Russia had more. But in 1994, Ukraine had willingly given up its entire stockpile for the sake of peace. Both US and Russia stood guarantors to Ukraine's peace, signaling that Ukraine will never be in need of such weapons. In 2014, Putin went back on the promise that Russia had made and ordered the annexation of Crimea. The annexation of Crimea in 2014 stamped Putin's legacy as what began to be termed the gatherer of Russian lands. Vladimir Putin became not only the longest-serving leader in Moscow after Stalin, but also the first ruler since then to expand Russian territory. Putin's invasion of Ukraine is ostensibly to teach its leaders not to tango with the West. A warning to NATO to stay off Russian borders and to stop their eastward extension. But whatever be the reasoning, stretching from Putin's alleged megalomania to claimed genuine geopolitical considerations, the fallout is going to be harsh. No one knows what Putin wants. No one knows how far he'll go. The world watches in trepidation as life hangs in balance. And peace remains subject to the demons that plague the fantasy of a single man.